From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm Vasilios. That is Sean Fazende. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review. You can find us wherever you listen to and watch your podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit the bell notification button. You get an update every time we upload a new podcast. Sean, it is another victory Monday for the Saints, and this one is the biggest one yet. They put the most points on the board anyway. But they took out the Patriots in Foxborough for their second straight victory in New England. But we were kind of worried about this team heading in, about if they were going to be able to score all these points and everything like that. But after yesterday's big win, looking at the big picture again, like we usually do on Mondays, what have you seen?
Okay, first off, how peaceful is today? It's amazing. It's good weather outside here in New Orleans, and all of a sudden the Saints get a dominant win over I'm not sure what to make of that New England Patriots team, but that's their problem, not the New Orleans Saints problem. They win in dominant fashion and dominate in all three phases of the game, 34-0. And now all of a sudden everybody's feeling good. You know how we know? We don't have a whole lot of questions from the Final Word feature. We'll get to a few of those a bit later. But you asked me about the big picture. It's where we usually like to start, especially on a Monday after a game, and especially this one where they win in dominant fashion in their most complete game of the season. Dennis Allen even said that's how I want my team to look right there. And you can understand why. I mean, they were dominant in every single phase. The big picture is this. The Saints are now 3-2. They have now outplayed 4 of their first 5 opponents. Let me repeat that. They have now outplayed 4 of their first 5 opponents. Yes, I'm saying they should be 4-1. They're not. They're 3-2. The only 2 blemishes are the game their starting quarterback left the game early, and the other one was that same quarterback, Derek Carr, couldn't practice leading up to the game against Tampa Bay where they looked horrible. The only game where they were truly they deserved to lose. So right now, if you look at the big picture of this team, you can understand why there was no sense of panic last week. There really wasn't, even on Monday morning when I walked in there, which is usually the time you can kind of cut the tension a little bit. You can kind of feel it the day after, because I'm rightfully so, because it's still fresh in everyone's mind. There was a sense of urgency, but let's not confuse sense of urgency with sense of panic, because I think every team has a sense of urgency. No team wants to work all week to go and lose. But I think the bottom line is simply this. Other than the Tampa Bay game, I think the Saints feel really good about who they are and where they are, and the fact that they still feel like they have a lot of room to grow while being 3-2. And like I said, knocking on the doorstep of 4-1, which, if Derek Carr doesn't get injured against Green Bay, who knows what would have happened in that game. I believe they win that game. Regardless, neither here nor there. Today, on this Monday, we talk about a 180 in terms of just overall vibe and feeling and just aura around the organization. Not within the organization, but kind of everyone around it. Everyone feeling a whole lot better based off of a pretty dominant performance over the New England Patriots. So 3-2. I guess Tampa had off this week, so I guess you're still in second place, tied for second place in the division. But still, everything they want, everything they feel like they can get is still very, very, very attainable. And don't lose sight of the fact that it's still very early in the season. A lot of things develop, especially now, because now you've kind of crossed that threshold into early season, second quarter. This is really where you become who you are. And you're probably seeing when things look really, 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 really good for the Saints, it looks like it looked Sunday in New England.
All right, so they put up 34 points on the board yesterday. It really was only 27 if you take away the Tyrann Mathieu interception return for the touchdown. Have they solved their offensive issues, or do you think that maybe it's still a little bit of a work in progress?
Do I get to pat myself on the back this Monday? Do I get to do it?
You can tell. You can say I said it on air. So
I said it on this podcast. I knew it was a risk. Sometimes you just have to take calculated risks in this business. I said, is this the week the offense breaks through? I said, yes, it is. Look, based on what they've done the first 4 weeks, that qualifies as a breakthrough, in my opinion. When you're able to score 27 points, you're able to get inside the red zone 3 times and score 3 touchdowns, and that was your biggest vulnerability all season. They were probably a little more efficient than explosive. They had a few chunk plays, there's no doubt about that. But you can tell by mid-third quarter, Dennis Allen, the defensive coach, just take the air out of the football and let's just get this thing down to 0 and let's get out of New England here with a win. He would have been perfectly fine with a 24-0 win or a 31-0 win. It ended up being 34-0 win. So at some point, you could tell they were just trying to get the clock out, trying to run the clock out. But look, they ran the ball effectively. That was a major thing we had talked about. There was so much more there in the run game. They ran the ball effectively. They kept it pretty simple. Alvin Kamara on those outside zone runs. Even Kendre Miller pitched in as well. And, of course, you had Taysom in the mix as well. They finished in the red zone, as we mentioned. Get inside that 20, hyper-focused, execute. You get in with Alvin Kamara. You get in with Chris Olave. And then, obviously, you get in with Foster Moreau on a brilliantly called, brilliantly designed play that no one would have saw coming, which is basically a fake option pitch and then a shovel pass forward to Foster Moreau. Derek Carr, I will continue to harp on this fact. He practiced all week. His stats aren't going to wow you. I don't even think he had 200 yards passing, but he was in complete command, complete control of that game. Had a couple of plays that probably could have got him a few more yards. There was a throw down the sideline to Chris Olave. Couldn't quite get that second foot down. There was a throw to Olave in the end zone. Probably should have been a touchdown. Wasn't able to come down with it. There was a seam throw to Michael Thomas, who defender made a nice play. But nonetheless, I thought he was in complete command, complete control, and I just feel like where he's at when he gets those practice reps, I think he's played well enough to win now in 4 of the 5 games he's played in. The 3 that he finished, they've obviously won. The one he didn't finish, they ended up losing. But he only did not play well in the 1 week. He didn't practice all week. I will continue to say that was more important than the actual shoulder injury. Plus, hey man, our guy took it all week. He took the criticism all week, but let's give a tip of the cap to Pete Carmichael, offensive coordinator, who had been under fire, who had been, people on the outside. I mean, even former players calling for him to get fired or for him to get relieved of his duties or make a change at play caller. Players kind of even suggesting that we're getting a little predictable, and he took all that criticism, he kept it to himself, or took it all in, and then came out with a very good game plan, and then a very well-called game. I'll go back and look at where the balance sort of balanced out, but they were balanced. And, in terms of formationally, personnel grouping-wise, different things, pre-snap, whatever the case may be, how many things they've showed, how many things they did this week that they hadn't showed in week before or in weeks before. So all in all, it was a good bounce-back effort a good bounce-back effort for Pete Carmichael, and that'll hold off the dogs, if you will, for at least a week. Now, look, it takes one more stumble. They'll be right back on them. But at least for a week, he validated Dennis Allen's belief and faith in him. So, look, I still think there's more there on offense. There's more there. I think they can connect a few more times on those explosives. Sure. I still think they can run the ball with, decisive and effectiveness, even more so than they did. The yards per carry were below 4, so I still think there's a little bit more there offensively. But that was a good leveling of, okay, we're kind of balanced now. We're back to where we want to be identity-wise, and let's go forward with this sort of line being we crossed the threshold now offensively. So all in all, really good vibes offensively, and I'm just it was good to see because, like we said before, this offense is good enough. This offense has the players.
They do.
This offense has the talent. This is not like a situation where you're begging for a playmaker at receiver, or you're begging for a playmaker up front, or you're begging for a playmaker at running back. They have all those things. It really is just a matter of executing and being a little more efficient as a play caller, and I think they checked all those boxes on Sunday.
Can I play a little bit of a contrarian?
All right, let's do it. I want to hear it.
All right. So, yes, they won 34-0, and I already mentioned that. 1 second, I dropped a piece of paper here.
That's all right.
All right. So, they put up 27 points offensively. That is good now for 16.4 points per game on offense this season. They're getting back up there. That's fine. I would be more worried if they didn't do this against the Patriots. Looking at the numbers now, they doubled the time of possession against the Patriots yesterday, 40 minutes to 20 minutes. Their third down efficiency still scares me, 5 of 15 on third down. I mean, you only had 300 total yards. I mean, you still lost the penalty battle. You had 12 penalties yesterday. I don't know. I mean, you kind of had to do this against the Patriots. Now, this is a team that you could beat up against and kind of just work things out against. But I don't know if this is going to be – it could be a jumping-off point for all we know. But what I'm saying is if you're excited about yesterday's game, ease your excitement at least a little bit because this is a bad team you were playing. It was the only team in the NFL that was worse than you offensively going into this game. So that's all I got to say about.
Well, that's why I said there's more there.
Absolutely.
There's more there offensively. And, had there been a little more competitive game in the second half, I just wonder if maybe – because it was one drive. I think it was something like 8 straight runs. It was like Kamara had like 7 carries on the drive. It was so clear. It was crystal clear that they were trying to just run this clock out. I mean, Derek Carr didn't even have to play in the fourth quarter. If they could have pulled him in the fourth quarter. As is, they pulled him, like 6-minute mark of the fourth quarter. I mean, look, from Tyrann Mathieu' interception to Chris Olave's touchdown, like the 11-minute mark of the second quarter. So that was like an 11-minute stretch. Tyrann Mathieu gets the pick. Alvin Kamara scores. It was 3 straight touchdowns, and then Chris Olave. The game was over at that point.
Yeah.
The game was completely over. I don't know what has happened to the Patriots. They are so inept, anemic. They have no identity. They look completely lost. And above all that, they look defeated. Yeah. I mean, they look completely defeated.
And it's like I told you yesterday before the game even started. I thought that the Saints only needed like 10 to 14 points yesterday to win the game.
Yeah, they needed 7. 3. That's all they needed, One score was all they needed.
Yeah, so, I mean, I just think against a higher-powered offense, we need to see this again against a more stiff competition.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens against the Texans. They're still trying to figure that team out a little bit. I know
CJ Stroud might be the truth.
She's shown some flashes early, but this is a good okay, let's just level this thing off a little bit because you can certainly do better than this. But this was the best you had done, most complete effort you had done. You had put forth throughout the first 5 weeks of the season. So, and you're right. And the 4 false starts completely inexcusable. That's going to cost you against a team that's scoring points.
Yep.
That's going to cost you against a team that's scoring points when you have to kind of go at least getting a little bit of a score-for-score type game. You never had to do that in this game. But, look, man, it's been a rough go for the first 4 weeks offensively.
No, enjoy it.
So,
but let's not get ahead of ourselves.
No, and I think most people understand that.
Yeah.
I think most people understand the way that game went. It was over by the third quarter, really over by the middle of the second quarter. And at some point, look, they just decided to run the clock out. It was abundantly clear they went into safe mode and let's just get out of here with a dominant win. And they still ended up scoring a few more points even after. I felt like it was after the Blake Groupie field goal and then the stop after that. I really felt like they had went into safe mode at that point.
Sure.
That's what a defensive coach does. So, by the way, shout out Blake Groupie, 250-plus yard field goal is not bad for the young kid coming back after missing the game winner, obviously, against Green Bay. So, yeah, man, you don't throw a parade over this, but you certainly take it, and hopefully you build off of it.
Absolutely. A win's a win, and this win wouldn't have been a win without the defensive dominance that we witnessed yesterday. Sean, what do you make of the defensive performance against the 2 quarterbacks and Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi?
Awesome. I mean, it was awesome. It was, the Patriots provided exactly what the doctor ordered. This defense is way too prideful. This defense is way too good. Way too many veterans. Way too many premier playmakers that have done a lot of good things in this league to let that loss to Tampa Bay linger. They were going to bounce back, come back. You had the takeaways. You had the 2 interceptions. You had the sacks. You had 1 third down conversion, 1 out of 14. Remember, what did I tell you when Marcus May went out a couple weeks ago? Watch the third down defensive numbers. And if you look against Green Bay and Tampa Bay, third downs were up. They were converting on third down against them. They were like, let's get this back to normal. So I really like the Mario was everywhere. The front was really everywhere. I'm starting to like this kid, Jordan Howden. He's making plays on the back end.
Yeah.
And look, I said this a couple weeks ago. The matchup you really have to look at in terms of, is this ever going to give the Saints trouble, an opposing offense? You have to look at the opposing wide receivers and how they match up against the Saints secondary. Because up until, Tampa to me was the only one that came close, and look what happened. They've been better than just about every single wide receiver core they faced, and that includes the game they lost against Green Bay. I believe. So that's the matchup I look at, and I'm going to get into the Texans matchup on Wednesday. But for the most part, not for the most part, for the game, they dominated, and it really all started with Tyrann Mathieu's pick, and it really just never stopped after that.
Yep, and let's get to some viewer questions because we didn't get many, but we got a couple of them kind of excited about this win. And if you want to send in your questions, either leave them in the comment section on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube, or send them in via the Final Word feature on the Final Play app, and you'll hear them here, and you'll hear them on Black and Gold Review on Monday.
Before you get into that question, it's so funny. Dominant win, nothing. Close win, we probably get a lot questions. Dominating loss, our emails don't stop.
Like last week.
And most of y'all, see, there's a generation of people here that alive now that only know Lee Zurich as an investigative reporter. There was a time he was a sportscaster in this town. My point to you is Lee's one of the biggest offenders of this. Lee's one. I had to text him yesterday. I was like, nothing? Question mark. He didn't have anything to say about it because he was so upset over the Tampa Bay loss. So Lee, if you're watching, I know you are. Had to make sure to let you know about that one. But nonetheless, a good win. We did get a few questions, and why don't we hear a few of them?
Yeah, this first one comes from Brandon in Laplace. Says, how satisfying is it to watch an undrafted guy like Carl Granderson shine?
Fantastic, man. You talk about a guy that really has grown and really fits in with the DNA of this defense. You know, the two guys that had manned that spot before him, Marcus Davenport is a spacey dude. Like, he's spacey, and he was always injured, and it was always, sometimes you're just like, where's this guy's head at? Peyton Turner, always injured, first-round pick. Carl Granderson's a grinder, man. Freaking grinder.
Consistent.
He had to gain weight. He had to battle. He won that job through true merit and competition and was given nothing. Every single time he got on the field, he made something happen. He was everywhere yesterday.
Yep.
He was everywhere yesterday. So those are the kind of guys you want to see succeed. And like I said before, there's a mindset with him. There's kind of a gritty dog mentality with him that I just think fits in a lot better with the rest of the defense than a couple of the other guys that ran that spot before him.
I agree. And this next one comes from Chuck in Ponchatoula. Has Penning improved, or are the Saints still having to give him help with additional linemen and chip blocks?
I'm glad we got this question because I probably should have talked about this with the offense, but the offensive line played well again. Penning is playing well. I know he got clipped once for a holding call, I think was once he got under the pads on one of the pass rushers. But Penning has played better. I think all of their opening day starters were back yesterday.
The Patriots were missing their best pass rushers.
They were missing their best pass rushers, no doubt about that. But hey, not the Saints' fault. So the offensive line is getting better, and that's the key to the equation there that I think will help level everything else off, is if the line of scrimmage is secure. And you saw a couple plays where you saw Derek Carr go from 1 to 2 to 3, back to 2. He had enough time to really scan the field.
That's the first time we've seen that.
And he wasn't worried. I thought the game against Tampa, he had more time, but it was almost like he had Green Bay in his head.
Yep.
He looked a little impatient, but he was not like that. And a lot of that had to do with the offensive line. So the offensive line has played fantastic the last 2 weeks. Got to keep that going, keep that cohesion going. Knock on wood. Hopefully you stay healthy, healthy-ish. You're never really healthy up front. But I think all in all, it was a good effort, back-to-back effort for the Saints offensive line. And like I said before, that is key going forward for the offense. Any
final thoughts as we head into Week 6? It's Houston Texans week.
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought there was a lot to really like about that game. I wanted to bring this up, but 3rd and Thomas. Michael Thomas on 3rd down has been fantastic. 3rd and Thomas has been great. He got that early 3rd down catch. He had a catch over the middle that I think kind of broke open the offense on that 3rd and I think 10 or 11. And he had that late one where Carr had to really rifle it in there. He catches it, gets a big hit, legal hit too, and holds on to the ball. So I think Michael Thomas is really making catches in traffic. This is now Game 5 now, and we haven't even had to talk, again, knock on wood, anything to deal with him in terms of health or injury. So I think that's certainly something to watch going forward. Alvin Kamara sets the record. He looks good right now, man. Just balance, smooth. and he's bringing kind of an edge, I think, because I think he's, he talked after the game about calling some players owing him one because of some penalties. So he's kind of been that guy that's kind of risen in terms of like accountability, because he kind of inferred, I don't know if you kind of read between the lines, like he was kind of calling out Pete Carmichael last week, and he didn't have to read between the lines this week when he was calling out a few players. It was kind of in a joking manner, but nonetheless, if he's the guy that's got to bring the accountability, so be it, because it worked. So all in all, good victory. Mission accomplished for the Saints.
All right, thank you to everybody who sent in questions. Reminder, you could drop them in the comments, or you can send it to us in the Final Play app via the Final Word feature. For Sean Fazende, I'm Vasilios. This has been the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. We'll catch you guys on the next one.